My name is Jeff Wall. I'm the Senior Director of Strategy and Growth here at Bidgely, and I'm joined today by Adam Grant from NV Energy. Adam, thanks for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, could you tell us a little bit more about your role at NV Energy?
Thanks for having us. Appreciate being here. Yeah, so my role here at NV Energy is to manage the delivery of all of our customer programs. So be it demand side management, DSM, clean energy, renewables, demand response. So I manage the delivery of all the suite and portfolio programs that we offer to customers. And we have a very unique customer base at NV Energy for a couple different reasons. We have the two very distinct territories. So we have our northern territory, which includes the Reno Sparks area, also includes a very large rural community up in the eastern part of Nevada, which is about 40,000 square miles of territory, but it's much more rural. It is much more spread out. And then we have our southern territory, which includes Las Vegas and Henderson, which is, the hustle and bustle of Vegas. It is high use in a small area. These programs that we offer and that we run have a very distinct kind of footprint in each territory, and they're actually run fairly differently depending on where it is, the north or the south.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's actually, it's helpful to think about it, not only from a territory perspective, but I think you guys have sort of been leaders in thinking about it from a customer-centric perspective. We've worked with NV Energy for quite a few years now. I'd love to hear from your perspective, Adam, how you think data plays a role in creating sort of that customer-centric approach, whether there's somebody who's up in the Reno Sparks area or somebody who's down in the Las Vegas area.
So everything we do now is based on data. We were one of the first utilities in the country to have a full rollout of a smart grid technology. So because of that, we have this two-way communication with customers to understand how they're using their energy, when they're using their energy, on what appliances they're using their energy with the tools that Bidgely provides. And we can then cater programs and cater offerings to if you will, almost catered to the individual customer. Now, we can't cater every program to every individual customer, but we can see the majority and cater to those customers to know that this piece of business will be very beneficial to this customer segment, and this will be to that customer segment. So we can design and create what we're running in terms of energy efficiency and demand response and clean energy, and really drive the marketing towards them also to make sure that we hit that customer base and know that that's something that they are, one, hopefully interested in, but two, need, because we have that communication with them back and forth.
Yeah, and as far as sort of that customer specific opportunity you mentioned, I've worked on a few projects with NV Energy, and you kind of hit on three elements. One is sort of the design phase, right? Who has what? When are they using it? How should we consider that in designing our programs? And then there's also sort of the effective sort of targeting or marketing phase, right? Like, how do we get in front of them? How do we make sure that they are aware of this need, right? Maybe they are or they aren't. And then last is obviously program execution. Can you talk a little bit more about some maybe more specific opportunities from the data, that early deployment that you've had come your way? One that comes to mind for me is the variable speed pool pump program.
Yeah, I think that was really beneficial because of the, we've had this relationship with Bidgely since 2017. I think we launched our online tool. And obviously the disaggregation piece allows us to know what customers have a pool pump and what customers, on top of that, even have a less efficient or a single speed pool pump. So we were able to by using the data and by pulling that data out and analyzing it, understand that this customer has this type of pool pump potentially, and they live in this territory. So we can then go and target the messaging to them and know that they are someone who is in need of the services we can provide with our Energy Smart Pool Pumps program. The caution, obviously, is the big brother aspect. They have to understand that we're not, that we got that a lot at the beginning. We were, controlling their appliances and turning them on and off when we wanted to. Obviously, it's not the case, as everyone knows. At least hopefully everyone knows. But we were really able to target them to know this customer has this appliance and this is their use pattern, and we can help them by we have a program that offers incentives to lower their energy usage and provide them services to help them understand more their energy usage.
Yeah, and that's a really great insight about, sort of, data as a resource, can be both a benefit and maybe a bit of a worry for a customer, right? You mentioned the big brother aspect. Um, how important, or maybe can you speak to how you use data in a way that is framed appropriately for customers? So you may know somebody has a pool pump, and they may be a good candidate due to sort of the single speed nature of that pump to upgrade into a variable speed measure. How does NVE approach framing this type of data for customers in a way that's helpful and beneficial?
That is the challenge. That is the $1 million question. When we started with their AMI smart meters and we started with the understanding, a lot of it was directed even before we had smart meters. We had thermostats that could detect uh, potential faults in their air conditioning unit. That was really challenging because we installed the thermostat in their home, and the customers were really questioning, okay, you put this in there and now you know this. It has become easier because the smart meters are kind of understand that they are smart and they're learning about the customers. So the communication and the reference points that we use have to be um, driven towards the customer so they understand this is a benefit to them. Um, the most important thing is that we're not coming and saying, we know this. We're coming to them and saying, hey, look, there's a chance you could benefit from this. And here are the benefits of what we're bringing to you, as opposed to, you need this. We found out you have done this, this, and this. That messaging just hasn't worked and doesn't work. It's got to really be catered toward the customer as a benefit and how this is going to help them, as opposed to that we've been watching them or that we know they've done it because the technology is telling them us that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Honestly, I think it's one of those things that isn't inherently obvious about data, right? Data tends to be so binary. And so what you're saying is using data and working with Bidgely, you've basically been able to present sort of benefit to customer or impact of potential action in a way that drives uptake and cross sell and engagement and enrollment. And it's less about telling them what to do and more about informing them with an insight that would drive an action.
Exactly it. Informing them that an action they could take could benefit them in the future, in the short term and in the long term. You know, short term it will give them potentially a rebate, but in the long term they'll see their energy use go down, they'll see their bills go down, and they will hopefully be able to see that benefit over years, as opposed to just a quick fix.
Right, a continual illustration of the benefit over time. So maybe switching gears here, Adam. We've really enjoyed working with MD Energy. One, because you guys are a leader in sort of the input of smart metering infrastructure in your territory. You've often taken the tact of what are some of the new ways we can sort of approach a problem or find a new solution. And we've kind of taken a very modular journey with you. And so I'm just going to quickly list sort of what the things are over time.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot together and a lot of it's like kind of like an octopus. You got all these tentacles of all these things that are controlled by one area, but they really do branch out in several different ways to touch and benefit customers.
hmm And central to that octopus analogy is sort of the unique data for each customer, right? And it might be a DSM program. I know you mentioned sort of the clean energy objectives you have around electrification. You've got your demand response program, but it all comes back to who is that unique customer? What does that data say about them, their performance, their appliances, their use? So that evolution for us modularly with you, and obviously you've got expanded programs in your purview beyond that. It started with just basic appliance disaggregation, and it's grown to include home assessment, field auditor tools, home energy reports we work with your group on, as well as sort of a customer care solution for those folks where it's a bit more reactive. How do we still provide them that same level of insight and depth into how they're using energy, how it might affect their bill? And last but not least, some of the more recent stuff has been this customer targeting through sort of a better understanding of not only the customer, but also that grid side constraint, right? Where is there a feeder constraint or a substation, a non-wires alternative that we might want to consider? For you, in working with us, how has that modularity helped sort of ease NVE into sort of the respective tentacles of the octopus, right? Doing all that at once is a lot, but you guys have had sort of a very sort of phased approach. Can you speak a little bit to sort of the comfort, not only for the customer, but also for the management by NVE?
The most important thing for us in setting up the beginnings of this relationship and the first piece, which was the disaggregation tool and the appliance disaggregation, was having this single source of the truth for the customer. So every single piece of data that we received was now coming from one place. So every time we put something out, it was the same data with the same numbers that the customer then could be very confident that every data is the same. So it's all current and correct. We in the past didn't, if you look at one place on our website or you got an email from us, there may be a difference in the data because we were using different systems. So that was the beginning of it. And that was really the reason we wanted to start with this process to bring everything into one location. So having this tool and starting with the disaggregation tool is what started it. But then we branched and saw that it was a benefit to customers. We saw that it was made life for us easier as running these programs and having this communication with customers, and that we could branch out into other benefits and other opportunities for customers using the same data. So we moved into, as I said, using home energy reports, where it's still the same data, but now we're targeting customer use based on their usage, and also having that comparison piece, what's going on around them, that we can reach out to them and say, here's this, and it's still the same data and still the same numbers that they'd see if they logged on to the website or they got their bill. We would then be able to say, okay, here's opportunities for you as part of the home energy report. Gotten great success on the home energy reports by on the open rate, more than 60% open rates, and very high click-through rates. So that was really kind of the next phase of it, where we moved into that piece of where can we, again, in another kind of tentacle, use and put this data to best use for the customers. Another piece of it was going towards our call center. So again, customer calls in. Now the CSRs who are taking the call have the same data and have the same customer-centric view that they can look at and provide the information to the customer they're looking for. But again, it's all having it all in one place and stemming from the same location of all the data and it all being the same is the biggest benefit for us. Branching it out into different offers and opportunities just made sense. Especially, again, we do have such a strong relationship with Visually. We have, it's been, 4.5 years now that we've had this, starting with the disaggregation tool and all the other opportunities, stemming into a piece of business that we didn't really even know, that Visually didn't even know they had, which was this third business doing with now. So we're working things together and seeing for the first time as partners, hey, we can go do this together too, because the data shows us that we can. And that's a really big benefit, I think, for both of us.
Agreed. I think kudos to you and your team, Adam, for sort of being designed in a way that lends you to sort of think about advancing sort of your strategies in that way, right? We got together and we didn't know where the relationship would go, what more we could do. I think your closing point there on looking at the data and saying, okay, what more do we see here that might, benefit another program or could potentially inform sort of a strategy we want to take for our portfolio. That's been probably the most powerful piece for me. I lean a little bit more into that central sort of repository of unique customer master data, right? Who is it who has cooling? Who is it who has baseboard heat? Who is it who has an electric vehicle? Using that to then sort of inform sort of those relative touch points that are high impact. So if I think about, where you're going with your portfolio moving forward, you've got a shift load, you've got a sort of save load, you've got a lot of competing priorities. And so giving the right message to the customer from that central data point seems to be the key theme that NVE is moving forward with, which is that we have sort of a unique journey for each customer that aligns to the highest amount of impact, not only for them, but for NVE and the accomplishments that you want to achieve as a utility. whether that's, clean energy objectives, or that's something that's a bit more time and space relevant, like say shifting load at a particular, location within the grid. Would you agree with that sort of broad assessment to the approach?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that as you said, the data will direct how we can communicate and what the best path for each customer could be, and for us as a company, um, as from the grid optimization piece. If we see, we're in the middle right now as we're recording this of, one of the 2, 3 hottest September days in that we've recorded here. We've had calls to conserve for our customers, even last night and today. So, but this data is showing us how we can use our demand response to be able to optimize the load shed to particular places in the community that need it most. Um, we had that happen last year in the summer. That's the new reality of our company, is that we have to be smarter. We've got to work more efficient, and we have to take the data and take technology and use it to the best of its capabilities and to our advantage. I think that's one of the things that we really have. We always say we're not sure we want to be the actual tip of the spear, but we do want to be at the end of the spear. Understanding that we want to be out there and we want to be renegades in a lot of the stuff we're doing, because I think you guys and Bigley will be the first to attest this. The data doesn't lie. It is what it is. And if you use it properly and you can really garner it and make it beneficial to both us as a company, you as our partner, and to our customers, can't get any better than that.
Yeah. So this is my last question, and then I promise to stop. I think you talked about being maybe not the tip, but at the end of the spear. What would your advice be for utilities, whether it's with Bigley or just broadly getting into sort of this sort of better leverage of their own data sets? How would you recommend that they sort of grow in that same sort of modular way, right? I think a lot of times utilities are risk averse. And so the idea of either using data to inform insights to customers feels a little bit too big brother-ish or what have you. How have you handled this sort of, growth of pushing the envelope into new areas, new categories, new ways to leverage data? Like, is there an approach you take as an organization or specifically within your team that other utilities could benefit from hearing?
So I think it's 2 things. One, embrace the technology, embrace the data, find ways it can work for you, and the technology out there is benefits for everyone. 2, I think the most important thing is you got to listen to your customer base. You got to be able to listen and understand what they want. Part of our customer base, as I said, we're very 2 different distinct territories. Our Las Vegas and South Territory is very technical, open to technology. We've got the largest casinos in the world who use technology as a benefit to customers. We do too. Our Northern Territory is an older part of our state, so it is a little more risk averse. But embracing the technology, communicating with transparency what we're doing for them and how it can benefit them, I think is what we have really learned, or trying to learn. We're always trying to learn. That's the most important thing, is showing the customer through transparency the benefits they can have. Embrace the technology and then really provide the customer with the benefits is probably my one recommendation.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. It's been great speaking with you. As always, even better partnering with you. So thank you.
Anytime.